This is one of my favorite lessons, finding truth in our lives through humility. According to St. Paul, people are wise when they are humble, and they are humble when they are wise, and that a true estimate of ourselves is to recognize our nothingness. It is most profound, meaning humility belongs only to Jesus, the truth. A genuinely humble person lives according to truth, and God punishes pride because it is untruth, a lie. By humbling himself, a human being comes closer to the truth, which is God himself. God is able to do great things through the humble, for humility is like an emptiness that leaves room for God. The humble person is powerful because he is humble, not because he is strong. According to the reasoning of St. Paul, the only thing that I have not received, that is completely mine, is sin, whose source is in me and not in God. When Jesus says, "Without me, you can do nothing," it means that a true estimate of ourselves is to recognize our nothingness. When we examine ourselves and discover the truth that we are radically proud, which is our fault and not God's, because we have misused our freedom, it is indeed humility. Saint Angela of Foligno, who urged her sisters to enter the inner cell of our being in order to recognize our nothingness, not to close ourselves in giving in to self-centeredness and narcissism, but to open up to others where we are no longer able to see the defects in our neighbours. The Blessed Virgin Mary is the unsurpassed model of humility, truth. Joy is echoed by Mary in the Magnificat, a song of praise for God, who accomplishes his plan of salvation through the poor and the humble. In Mary's own canticle, the Magnificat, which does not speak about her humility, but her humble state, the humility of the Mother of God, who doesn't exalt herself above the humblest creature, is indeed a masterpiece of God's grace. Those truly humble don't believe they are humble, and people who think they are humble are not. Humility also entails being humiliated. Our humility is real when we accept reproofs, corrections, criticism, and humiliations. When others reproach us, knowing our defects, they help us remain humble. On the other hand, vainglory is condemned by Jesus, who said, "How can you believe when you receive glory from one another and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God?" Vainglory can transform even our striving for humility into an act of pride. With grace, we can come out victorious, even from this terrible battle. Speaking of the thorn in the flesh of St. Paul, he said that all have them. It could be a defect, an illness, a weakness, a powerlessness, a persisting humiliating temptation, or even an unpleasant person. They all speak about our frailty, and demolish our self-conceit. Humility is also important for the proper functioning of the community life and for building up the church.